Welcome back, Santa Clarita Valley, for another edition of SCV Sheriff Talk. I'm KHTS News Director Perry Smith. In the studio with me is my co-host Shirley Miller from the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station, and we have two very special guests in the studio with us today. Thank you, Sergeant Marizzi and Ashley, for coming in again and talking to us about what's going on at the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station. And Shirley, we got a big show for today, and it's been a interesting week for past couple weeks for law enforcement.
I really would like to, on behalf of the deputies and the staff at Santa Clarita Sheriff Station, I'd like to thank the public for the outpouring of support that they've received this week. Perry, you wouldn't believe the goodies that are being dropped off every day.
I've seen them. I sit there and I saw it. You guys deserve it. I mean, we're absolutely happy
Phyllis Berman,
that we're in a community where we support you guys, but I get jealous. I get jealous of the baked goods. I'm not gonna lie.
Our station volunteer, Phyllis Berman, who a lot of people know because she's been at our station so long, she has been getting her exercise this week. All of these goodies, cakes, desserts, flowers, cards, she is like back and forth, bringing the things in, and it really is, it just warms the heart to see how the community, we live and work in a community that is so supportive of law enforcement.
And Sergeant Marizzi, I know you and a lot of your colleagues live up in this area. A lot of the deputies, police this area that they live in. It's got to be feeling pretty nice to see that support and recognition.
It is. We don't often see it in our line of work, and it is to hear it every once in a while.
I mean, generally, when you have to make a contact with the deputy, it's not always something great's happened. That's why you need their help. But you get to see the other side.
I think I saw you. Didn't you come by when we did? There was someone in the community that organized Chalk the Walk. Past, was it Monday? I lose track of the days.
Absolutely, yeah. I know it's been a week.
Wasn't that cool?
That was a great outpouring. We saw a lot of support. Couple dozen kids, and they were there for like 3 or 4 hours.
They were stopping by sporadically throughout the day, and the person in the community that organized the event, she left a couple of buckets of chalk out there so that anybody who stopped by could write a message. Yeah, that was a surprise.
It was really neat. And I understand it's going to go on again today. She's going to talk to us. She's going to call in a few minutes and talk a little bit about that. Her name is Jane Woodworth, and she's just a local resident who saw what was going on and wanted to support law enforcement. So they're going to bring the colored chalk out there today again. At the Newhall Station, or they call it the Newhall Station, but it's actually in Castaic for the CHP.
Oh, for CHP. So they didn't do Chalk the Walk there yet for some reason?
No. We're going to do that. They're going to do that today. So that's why I wanted to mention it to let our listeners know that they can go out there and, again, support law enforcement in our community. The CHP work the roads and the highways.
So that's their office over there on the old road. Okay.
And that's going to go on 11 to 1. But again, we'll have Jane on here in a little bit to tell us a little bit about that. Is she calling in? Okay, so actually perfect timing, Jane. We have her on the air, and then.
Hi there.
If we have Jane, can you hear us? Okay.
I sure can.
Awesome. Wanted to ask you, Jane, if you could tell us a little bit about how you got the event organized for the Chalk the Walk, and what was the inspiration there?
I think it was just our community as a whole. We're a pretty close-knit community. I think Facebook really kind of provides us a amazing communication ability, some of our community sites. And, I've been looking around for something service-wise to demonstrate with my daughter. And with everything in the news, it just has been a little overwhelming with all the negativity, and we all know things happen, and racism is still in our country, and I'm not sure we can ever fully get rid of it, but
so this was an opportunity to create that first impression, create a positive experience with your child and law enforcement.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. So that I grew up with a different perspective. I never feared an officer. I've always respected and was raised, with pride in everything they do and every sacrifice they make while they're working and what they're giving up with their time with their families. And so I grew up with that, and I want my daughter to grow up the same way. And that's, putting them out there so she can see is important to me. So I just felt like we could make a positive difference.
Hi, Jane. This is Shirley Miller. I'm the Public Information Officer at Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station. I wanted to say good morning to you. Hi, and I briefly got meet with you on Monday, and I just wanted to thank you again for doing something that was so special. And the chalk is still there. It's going to be interesting to see how long it lasts. Hopefully, it'll last for a while, so it's a remembrance of what you organized.
It doesn't rain much. It doesn't rain much.
No, I was
I
going
don't
to
think that's in the
say.
forecast for a little while.
Yeah, if you did it in Florida, yeah, it'd probably be gone by now. But I think we're safe for a while. But thank you again. It's very encouraging to the deputies to see people like yourself that have such a strong desire to support law enforcement, not only Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station, but LAPD and all of the other police departments, law enforcement agencies nationwide. Thank you.
No, you're quite welcome. We'd enjoyed it, and I would encourage anybody to, in their communities, to do the same. Whether it's just thanking an officer as you pass them, or taking the time out of your day to make a difference in your community, supporting them. So,
And Jane, speaking of that, you're actually taking some more time out of your day today to support Newhall CHP, and I wanted to have you call in and mention that a little bit, because I thought that was kind of a neat story too. So, because you heard about, you put together the first one, and then you're now going back out there to support the Castaic station.
We are. We're headed there. Actually, right now, we're going to go and head that direction. We'll have the chalk bucket set up. And I'll end up leaving a chalk bucket there. So anybody who can't come during our time frame, which will be there from 11 to 1, it's a little hot, but we can do it. Just stop by. Only takes a couple of minutes to chalk a nice picture or anything you want to say right on the chalk. So yeah, we'll be on the old road CHP station from 11 to 1. If anybody wants to stop by, we would love the support and see what we can do there also.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we get a big crowd there too to see support for the CHP as well. Appreciate you calling in, Jane, and talking a little bit about that. And again, 11 to 1 at the CHP station. If anybody wants to come down and maybe bring some water or some chalk, I'm sure that would be appreciated also.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jane. And
kind of makes you wish you had those water spritzer bottles that they sell at the theme parks with the little fans and the water.
If I wasn't here, I'd be down there with a super soaker, probably.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it's hot this week, and we just a reminder out there to the public, and in this hot weather especially, please do not leave pets, kids in the car. And even with pets, we find that there is so many concerned citizens and animal lovers in Santa Clarita Valley. Is you literally may leave your pet in the car for 2 minutes while you're running in to get a drink, but our citizens, they're on top of it. So just be aware that when you come out from 7-Eleven with your Slurpee,
Somebody
we may be there. So
somebody will probably call and report you.
Yeah,
which is a good
don't
thing.
even leave your pets in the car for a minute. I know our front desk a few weeks ago was getting lots of calls from the community calling about pets in hot cars, and in some cases, the person who left their pet in the car said, well, it was just for minutes, but don't do
couple
it.
minutes is all it takes. Yeah, and how do you know that
Right.
something's not going to hold you up in the store?
Exactly.
It's just not responsible.
Yeah, the temperature gets so hot in there.
Want to talk a little bit about that and some warnings, because temperatures are going to reach into triple digits when we get back, and some more on cybercrime from Sergeant Marisi. That's your wheel well. And we'll be right back after a quick commercial break on SCV Sheriff Talk, brought to you by All American Bail Bonds on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back, Santa Clarita Valley. We're here on SCV Sheriff Talk. I'm KHTS News Director Perry Smith. In the studio with me is my co-host Shirley Miller, PIO for the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station, and we have Sergeant Marisi and Ashley Olivier from the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station with us in the studio today.
And Sergeant Marisi, he is assigned to our Detective Bureau. He is the sergeant that oversees the burglary theft team, and they handle other types of crimes as well. Sergeant Marisi, how long have you been at Santa Clarita Station now in your current assignment?
I've been at Santa Clarita for approximately 7 months, since November.
7 months. And where did you transfer from?
My prior assignment just before this was at our parole compliance unit, and then prior to that I was at Sentry Station as a sergeant.
Okay, so you've been with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for how long now?
20 years.
20 years.
Including a local stay, right? You worked, before you came up to the Santa Clarita Valley Station, you were in, you said Pitches?
I did work at Pitches for 4 years, first 4 years of my career.
Awesome.
So how many detectives do you oversee in your current assignment?
Currently I have 9 detectives that work underneath me.
And what kinds of crimes do they get assigned? What kind of reports that come through?
My side deals generally with just the property type crimes, so burglaries, thefts, vandalisms. We do also the identity thefts, phone scams, fraud, those types of crimes.
Now, I have a question, and Perry, I don't know if people ask you this too.
Look, Shirley, I'm waiting for this question.
No, I'm not directing it towards you. I'm going to ask Sergeant Marisi. A lot of people out in the public get confused between burglaries and robberies. Now, we have a separate Detective Bureau team that handles robberies. Could you kind of explain to the listeners what is the difference between a burglary and a robbery?
A burglary is it's your residence that gets broken into. You're not there. Someone breaks into your house, your apartment, with the intent to commit grand theft or any other felony. A robbery is a crime against a person. So the victims of robberies are always going to be people, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, it does. And as far as hot prowl, that's a burglary where someone's in there, right? That's our understanding.
That's a burglary. It could also be a home invasion robbery. There's a couple different crimes that come into play with that.
Okay.
Hot prowl isn't generally a crime statute. It's more of a descriptor of what kind of a burglary we're dealing with.
Okay, yeah, no, I always kind of wondered about that because a robbery, like you just said, a robbery is a crime against a person, but a hot prowl can be a burglary even though there's a person with somebody home. So it's kind of one of those tricky areas, right?
Correct.
Now, one of Perry, his team deals with like forgery and fraud issues, and that covers scams. You probably see a lot of agencies, including our agency, putting out warnings to the public about telephone scams or emails, and that is something that he directly deals with. Would you say, Sergeant, in the Santa Clarita Valley, is telephone scams something that's happening here to the public, or is that just in other places?
It's most definitely happening in Santa Clarita, and since I have been at the station, I've noticed a little bit of an increase. We probably average anywhere between 10 and 20 a month.
Wow, and those are ones that are reported. There's probably a lot of people out there that it happens to, and they don't make a report.
That's right.
It seems like from what I read, the more, like as soon as people figure out, oh, this is a scam going on, there's a new one. I mean, so how do you guys how do you stay on top of that, and how do you kind of watch for,
It's tough. A lot of these scams are developed and devised so that there is really no way for us to catch up on it until after they're done scamming people.
But you rely a lot, I would imagine, on public reporting these kind of things and kind of keeping you guys in the loop, because if people aren't reporting their thefts, then how do you know, right, like what's going on?
That's true. We also want to educate the public on these scams and, an ounce of prevention. I forget the rest of the phrase, but an ounce of prevention.
A pound of something, right?
Goes
A
a long way.
pound of cure, right?
There you go.
Okay.
That sounds good.
People need to take a little bit more precautions about what they're doing online and on the phone.
Sorry, Shirley.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just going to say, what are some of the most common telephone scams that you see that are being reported right now by people?
The most common ones that we've seen, especially this time of year, one of them is the IRS scam, where people are getting phone calls from the IRS saying you owe us money.
I've been seeing some emails about those, right?
And that's, again, it's based on the time of year, because people do expect to hear from the IRS, whether it's a refund or whether you owe them money. But that scam, the simplest way to combat that scam is to hang up on the person and call the IRS or call the franchise tax board and inquire about your taxes, or contact whoever did your taxes.
What about the jury duty scam? Do you remember that, when people were saying that? I saw, I don't know if it was happening here, but you would get a phone call saying, hey, you missed your jury duty, and unless you pay this fine over the phone, we're going to send the police out to come pick you up and arrest you. Did you hear about any of those around here?
Not that particular one, but that goes hand in hand with a few different ones where people do get phone calls saying you either have a traffic warrant, you have an outstanding arrest warrant, you have a loved one in jail. And
that's
if they
huge.
aren't bailed out anytime soon, the fines are going to double. The simplest response to that is law enforcement, the courts, whether it's city, state, county, federal. We do not solicit money over the phone.
That's the most important thing that I think we need to emphasize.
Definitely reinforce that, right?
They do not solicit money over the phone.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, Sergeant Maurice, because one of the things you were mentioning is like the nature of these crimes is that they change, and a lot of times they're set up like what we discussed was that a good scam is untraceable, because that's what makes it a scam, is that the person that's contacting you doesn't exist. So really education is the most important thing, and you had mentioned some ways of how people can educate themselves as far as things to search for online. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, as far as like if you're an elderly person, or maybe just somebody without much computer experience, how do you know what to look for? How do you know what a scam looks like?
Are you talking about more like telephone scams or email scams?
Email scams, and I think you had mentioned phishing as something.
Fishing. You mean like
Sergeant
going out in
Maurice?
the boat and catching fish?
Yes. I'd love to be doing that right now.
No fishing.
Anybody can go online. Anybody, if you're not that comfortable going online, find a relative who is, and just research it. Type in the word phishing with a PH. Type in the word phone scams. Type in anything to do with a scam, and if you navigate the internet appropriately, you can find a bunch of information that educates you on that. You can also go to the websites for the Sheriff's Department, for the Federal Trade Commission, the FBI, and there's information there as well.
And I think this is as good a time as any to mention Nixle and some of the messages that you put out, Shirley, for the sheriff's station that warn people about those kind of scams if people want to sign up.
Sure. If you want to receive crime reports emailed or text alerts to your phone for here at Santa Clarita Sheriff Station, you can sign up for free at www.nixle.com. And I'm going to spell Nixle for you. It's Nixle. I kind of feel like a cheerleader right now. Give me an N, give me an I.
Nixle.
So Nixle is how we send out our community announcements and advisories, alerts. It's a great way to keep in touch with our station. And I noticed that the Los Angeles County Fire Department Division 3, around the time of the last fire, the Sage Fire, they also were sending out Nixle. So that was very important information to have as far as evacuations and the progress of the fire.
If I was a gambling person, I'd bet that they got a lot of signups on Nixle in the last
I'm glad to hear that you're not like a gambling type of person.
That's a huge if. Hypotheticals. But yeah, no, I mean, in an emergency situation, Shirley, you're right. That was absolutely one of the main ways, outside of come to our Facebook page, because we put those messages out too.
Twitter too was very helpful to people
At
during the
SCV
fire.
Sheriff.
I know I have a friend who lived in Stevenson Ranch in the Southern Oaks area, one of the areas that was being evacuated, and she asked me, what's the best way to keep minute to minute kind of what's happening with the fire, and
You said
Twitter.
tune into KHTS, and then...
Oh, yeah, I said that first. Tune into KHTS Twitter. I said, start following the different local news, the Santa Clarita Sheriff Station, the fire department, because those are like instant text messages. It's just like they were being updated constantly with what was going on.
And we got to take a quick commercial break. I want to talk a little bit more about safety and prevention when we get back on your SCV Sheriff Talk, brought to you by All American Bail Bonds on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.